One of the last videos I did was called The New Acting and the Universal Principles of Music. And I'd like to expand on that a little bit today, just to share with you the sort of work we're doing. We're not ready yet to be offering workshops on that, workshops for the actor, not for the musician. We looked at the keys, the 12 keys, in fact then 24, because there's the major and the minor. So we were very interested in noticing the difference between the major and the minor keys. We noticed with the keys, a particular piece of music would be in a particular key, which would create a feeling or an atmosphere or an emotion with you when you listen to it. For example, if it was something very sad and melancholic, like a funeral march, or something very sad on a feeling level, it would be in a particular key. And similarly, if something was victorious and triumphant, that would be in a particular key as well. Then I began, well, with my colleague as well, both of us began to see and find out, look for the difference between major and minor. But what we did beforehand was began to actually work with that word key, the keys of music. In one of the videos I did of the 5 pillars of acting freedom, I talked about the 6 directions in space. And I also talked about the key to acting freedom as well. A key opens. You need a key to open a door. And maybe not just a door, you need to enter into another space. And what is that? What is needed to actually cross from one space to another? You need something to get you there. And we could say that key opens you, allows you to enter into that new area or that new landscape, even a new space. A different atmosphere outwardly, a different emotion and feeling inwardly as well. So we saw that connection of what keys are, and that they're called keys of music, which means they open you out. They allow you to enter and open into a whole different dimension. I mean, dimension is a strange word. I prefer landscape, actually, because it's connected more to imagery, whereas dimension is a bit conceptual, I feel. And all the time as actors, as artists, we really have to be working imaginatively. And what does that mean? It means that we don't stay in concepts, and images can open out into other areas for us, so we can explore them. That's why I like landscape. So we saw the difference between major and minor. What was that difference? And we began, in asking that question, we began to work with the 6 directions in space, which I've actually alluded to and talked about in one of the videos. I can't remember which one now, about the 6 directions in space. So there we had up and down as directions, forward and back, and left and right. So with the major and minor, we began to see that there was an up, that which lifted us up, that was more energetic, more enthusiastic. And there were those keys, which we could call the minor keys, which were more coming down. The sort of, not depression or oppression, but simply another mood would be created. We then began to connect to that. This is why this work has been so exciting. We began to connect to an exercise Chekhov gave in the chapter, in the book To the Actor, not on the other one, on the technique of acting, because the chapters and subjects and themes are turned around a bit. But in the original one, To the Actor, in the chapter Outer Atmospheres and Inner Feelings, he gives a wonderful exercise how to actually tap into feelings, connect to feelings, without having to go back into your subjective self, into your memory, to regurgitate them all up again. It's a very simple exercise. Let me do it. He says, use a part of your body, and the arm is very good, because the arm and the arms are limbs, just like the legs, but the arms are different to the legs, because the arms are connected to this whole feeling area here. That when we want to express something, we express it with the gesture with our arms. I mean, we can express it with anything, of course, particularly our face, when we go, oh my God, look at that, or I don't particularly like what you're saying. I think it's quite wrong. Can you see the whole gesture is here? When we bring it down from the head, from the close-up to a medium shot, if we're going to use cinematic terms, the arms come into it. And the arms are connected to this whole torso area of the rhythmical breathing system, the heartbeat and the lungs, where those major organs live in the cavity of the chest, protected by the bones of the rib. The lungs connecting us to the outer world and our inner world, the breathing in and the breathing out. And the heart with this pulse, constant pulse. You could actually say that in musical terms, the heart is the beat, the pulse beat, yes? And you could say the rhythm of something is in the breathing in and breathing out. So already we can begin to see how these musical terms, beat and rhythm, harmony as well, and melody can be really connected to our acting. They're the same principles, and we can apply that into our work, into our acting work. We notice then from this exercise where we use the arm, and that's why the arm is important, because it's connected to this whole feeling area. What is the exercise? The phrase is, you've got to know what the feeling is, not emotion, feeling. I think in those other videos I've talked about the difference between emotions and feelings. If I haven't, that's the reason to do another video. So we have, I lift my arm with the sensation of, you've got to know what the feeling is. Feelings connected to sensation. Most important, that word sensation. So let's just say I want to have a feeling of despair or grief. Let's say grief. So what is the phrase? I lift my arm with the sensation of, and we wait for the grief to descend. Where does it descend from? I'll do it, and then you begin to notice and see the distinction between the up and the down, brought about by the line of the arm. If you're going to go up, you have to start from somewhere. You need a starting point. If you're going to go down or beyond, you need a starting point. That's most important. Otherwise, where does the up begin and where does the down begin? For example, here we go. I lift my arm, and you notice now what's happening. This whole area underneath, below, not beyond, below, you could say it's connected to the down direction, but it's another quality. It's not down, it's below something. Below what? Below this line here. So as you lift your arm, I lift my arm, you notice this area here is becoming very active, and you're sensing that. Yeah. So as you go further, I lift my arm with the sensation of, you see the arm is rising, And now I'm opening to the space above. Now, isn't that interesting? First time I've thought that. Up is about above, and down is about below. They're different. They're connected, but they're different. There's a different quality, a subtle different quality, like the shades of a color, like the shade of a red, a bright, vivid red, or a red that goes more into the pink. The shading is most important for the artist to develop that. Otherwise, everything just becomes binary, good and bad, black and white. So the shading is important. So as I lift my arm, I connect to this area here, and that's where we could say the feelings, the qualities live, they descend. You wish to be inspired by something dropping down into this above space. I mean, there's many connections there that I shan't go into. I don't want to give you indigestion, but it opens out into many different archetypes and things as well, which I won't go into at the moment. So here we go. Let's start from the beginning. I lift my arm with the sensation of, and I then pause and I wait for something to descend here. I don't do it too quickly, and I don't try and feel it first. I lift my arm with the sensation of, I let it incarnate the grief until it comes right into my body, into my number 2. And I go with it completely, right through my number 1, right through my physical body, right down to its toes. I don't squeeze it with my will. I let it just naturally flow into this noun, which is called my physical body, the flesh. So we began to see the above space and the below space, and how that's completely connected to the difference between major and minor. Not as concepts now, but as a real living experience, a real pure perception. Let's call it that, a pure perception, which is then manifested right in to our physical instrument.